Some people try to control everything. They plan every move. They define themselves clearly. They hold tightly to who they believe they are. And then life changes. Suddenly, their plan doesn't work. Their identity feels outdated. Their certainty becomes their weakness. But there's another kind of person. The kind that doesn't resist change, they move with it. They don't cling to form, they reshape it. And over time, they don't just survive uncertainty, they quietly gain power from it. Welcome to Mind Hums, where ideas spark and curiosity hums. This is the final law. And unlike the others, it doesn't give you a fixed strategy. It takes all strategies away. Law 48. Assume formlessness. At first glance, it feels abstract. Almost like something meant for philosophers, not real life. But the truth is, this law is everywhere. Every failed plan, every broken system, every person who couldn't adapt, they all had one thing in common. They were too rigid. They had a fixed way of thinking, a fixed identity, a fixed response to the world. And when the world changed, they didn't. And that's where they lost. We like structure. We like defining ourselves. I'm this kind of person. I always do things this way. This is how I handle situations. It gives a sense of control. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The moment you define yourself too clearly, you limit yourself. Because now, every situation has to fit your identity. Instead of adapting to reality, you try to force reality to adapt to you. And reality doesn't cooperate. It shifts. It evolves. It disrupts. And suddenly, your strength becomes your weakness. When Bruce Lee said, "Be like water," he wasn't trying to sound poetic. He was being practical. In martial arts, rigidity is dangerous. If your opponent knows your style, they know your next move. If they know your next move, they can counter it. And if they can counter it, you lose. Bruce Lee saw this clearly. So instead of mastering one rigid system, he created a philosophy of adaptability. He observed. He adjusted. He evolved. He didn't fight with a fixed identity. He fought with awareness. And that's why he wasn't just fast or strong. He was unpredictable. Human beings are pattern-seeking machines. We observe. We categorize. We predict. It's how we make sense of the world. But it's also how we become vulnerable. Because once someone understands your pattern, they can use it. If you always react emotionally under pressure, someone can create that pressure. If you always avoid conflict, someone can push you into corners. If you always say yes, someone will keep asking. Patterns make you readable, and being readable makes you controllable. But when you break patterns, and your responses are thoughtful instead of automatic, you interrupt that control. You create uncertainty. And uncertainty makes people pause. That pause, that's power. One of the most dangerous things you can do is attach yourself too strongly to an identity. I'm not a risk-taker. I'm not good at this. I'm just not that kind of person. It sounds harmless, but it quietly locks you into a fixed version of yourself. And the problem isn't that it's wrong. The problem is that it becomes permanent. You stop exploring. You stop adapting. You stop growing. Because now you're not responding to life. You're defending an identity. And that's a losing game. Let's bring this into real life. In your career, the job market doesn't reward those who stay the same. It rewards those who evolve. Skills that worked 5 years ago might be irrelevant today. If you cling to them, you fall behind. But if you adapt, learn new tools, shift your approach, explore new directions, you stay ahead. In relationships, people often try to define you. They expect consistency, predictability, and while consistency builds trust, over-predictability builds complacency. When you grow, when you shift, when you change, you remind people that you're not static, and that creates respect. In your mindset, the most powerful shift is internal. When you stop saying, "This is who I am," and start asking, "Who can I become?" everything opens up. You're no longer limited by your past. You're guided by possibility. This isn't about being random. It's about being intentional with flexibility. 1. Observe before reacting. Most people react instantly. Formless people pause. They read the situation first, then respond. 2. Detach from rigid self-labels. You're not one fixed thing. You're a combination of potential. Let that evolve. 3. Adapt your communication. Not everyone responds the same way. Adjust how you speak, not what you believe. 4. Stay emotionally grounded. Formlessness is not chaos. It's controlled adaptability. 5. Change patterns strategically. You don't need to confuse people constantly. Just avoid becoming completely predictable. That's enough to shift dynamics. There's a risk here. If you become too fluid, you might lose your core. You might start adapting to everything and everyone without direction. And that's not power. That's drift. Formlessness doesn't mean having no identity. It means not being trapped by one. Think of water again. It changes shape, but it never stops being water. In the same way, have values, have principles, have direction. But don't let your methods become rigid. Adapt your approach, not your essence. Here's what makes this law so powerful. It's subtle. You won't always see it. Formless people don't dominate loudly. They don't announce their strategy. They move quietly. They adjust silently. And before anyone realizes it, they're already ahead. Because while others are reacting, they're adapting. Life is unpredictable. Trying to control everything is exhausting. Trying to stay the same is limiting. But learning to flow, that changes everything. You stop resisting change. You stop fearing uncertainty. You start using it. And slowly, what once felt chaotic starts feeling like an opportunity. Thanks for letting your mind hum with us. If this made you reflect, even for a moment, hold on to that. Because awareness is where change begins. Stay curious. Stay evolving. And when life shifts, don't resist it. Flow with it.